Hey everybody, welcome to my Masterclass Friday. This is Terry White, Worldwide Photography Evangelist here at Adobe, and I'm giving the folks that are watching the pre-stream, like just the people watching on my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, just a quick bonus tip before we kick off the main event over on b.net/Adobe Live. So welcome everyone. Let me just quickly get to that tip because we're going to kick off the main session in 3 minutes. So let me see if I can get it done in 3 minutes. All right, switch it over to my desktop. I've got Lightroom Classic open right now. One of my favorite things about Lightroom Classic is a lot of times you have multiple shots, and not those, but let's go back down here, these. You have multiple shots and you want to compare them. You want to see like which one you like best. And you could, bring up each one and kind of go back and forth between them in a full screen view, or you could just hit the letter N for survey view. Survey view, if you hit your tab key again, that will also remove your side panels. That'll let you see each one, and then you can say, well, I kind of like these three, but I'm not a fan of this one. So when you close that one, it just makes the other ones bigger. And then you can say, well, I don't like this one as much. And then you can really narrow it down to the one that you really, really like. And while you're here, you can still give it star ratings and pick flags and things like that, so that once you come out of survey view, you'll see which one you like best. So I can say, nope, I don't like that one as much. Okay, now it's down to these two, and maybe it's just these two. Maybe it is not just one. Maybe I like them both. But this way, with survey view, you can quickly find the photo you like best. So with that said, like I said, once I'm here, if I marked that one as a pick, and I can click on this one, mark this one as a pick. I can also mark them with color labels. So I set that one to green. I'm hitting the letter or number 8, and the number 9 will set it to blue. And so I'm doing all those things so that once I go back to the grid view, those two photos are still selected, but they've got all the markings that I've done to them. All right, so with that said, that's your quick bonus tip for joining me on my channel. Thanks for joining me. We will be back in less than a minute, like 30 seconds for the main event. So I see Bruce. I see, it looks like Tariq. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Chelsea, and I see some folks over on YouTube. Welcome. And like I said, I'll be back in now less than 20 seconds. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the Masterclass Friday here on Adobe Live. So if you are joining us for the first time, we do these masterclasses. When I say we, I mean the evangelism team does these masterclasses every Friday, as long as we're not off work, every Friday throughout the day. So you'll see Photoshop, photography, graphic design, motion and audio, by Jason Levine. You'll see XD or UX UI design by Howard, and as well as drawing and digital painting by Kyle Webster. So all of these classes are throughout the day, every Friday, free for you to watch, free for you to go back and watch as many times as you need to. So even if you don't make it live, even if you're watching this on the replay, you can still go back and watch those other episodes. So thanks for joining me live. I see a bunch of people already in the chat. And thanks for watching the replay if you're watching the replay. So I also want to welcome officially to the Adobe team. Tim Mobist is in the chat. He's been moderating, he's been a guest, he's been a host, he's been doing all these things, and now he's officially an Adobe employee. So welcome, Tim. And I see a bunch of folks already there in the chat as well. James, Christine, Victoria, Andres, Craig, welcome everybody. Glad you're here. And today is one of my favorite topics. I do this topic once every month or so. Like I went back and looked. I didn't do it in March, so the last time I did it was in February. But so it's time to do it again, and that's how I would edit your photo. So these are user submitted photos. None of these are mine. None of these are photos that I shot. These are all shots that were submitted to me to see how I would do edits on your photos. In other words, you probably already know how you would edit them, so you want to see how someone else would edit them. And we may agree, we may not agree. So that's the whole beauty of this. It's just a fun exercise to like give your work to someone else and see how they would handle it. All right, so with that said, we got some submissions for this week. We have submissions left over from previous months that I didn't get to, so we're going to get to some more of those. In other words, I have more photos than I ever always have time to actually do the edits on. So I don't delete them, I don't throw them away, I just keep them for maybe the next time. In this case, I didn't receive as many this month as I did back in February and the month before that and all that. So I have a ton to get through. We'll get through, like we always do, as many as we can. And if you're wondering, well, is this for Lightroom or is this for Photoshop? The answer is yes. Some images I'll just only need to do things in Lightroom. Some images will require me to go to Photoshop, and you'll see that process as well. The next thing is, well, which Lightroom? Is it Lightroom Classic or is it Lightroom, the cloud version? Everything I'm going to show you, for the most part, will work in both. I'm going to be primarily in Lightroom Classic, but if you got a question on Lightroom or Lightroom on your mobile device, I'll be happy to answer those too. Speaking of questions, if you're watching this on my YouTube or on Facebook or somewhere else, and you want to participate in the chat and ask those questions, because I can't watch all the chats at the same time, head over to b.net/Adobe Live, and that's where the questions will be answered. That's where the chat I'll be looking. So if there's hey, I can't find the link for submissions. If you're watching it at this point, that link's expired anyway. So I don't get submissions live during, because then I can't review your submissions and then edit them at the same time. So usually the submission deadline is the night before. So the submissions they were cut off last night, and I advertise it a week in advance, usually on my social media. So if you, or actually it's usually in the description of this broadcast as well. So it's too late to submit for today, but again, when I do this topic next time, just stay on the lookout, follow me on social. I announce well in advance, and you can submit as many photos as you want. I won't get to all your photos if you submit more than one, but I'll certainly try and pick as many as I can from different people and get them edited. All right, or just show you what I would do. So with that said, let's get to it. Let's get to the editing. And let's get to the submissions that, again, some from this week, some from last time, some from the time before that, so forth and so on, all the way back, because I never get through all of them. But let's go ahead and do it. All right. So I'm in a Lightroom catalog, and I actually decided, because one of the times I got an image that was actually, something was physically wrong with the file. So it corrupted, the file was corrupted, it was giving me problems. I said, never am I importing your images in my personal catalog again, and there's no reason for me to. So I created a brand new catalog that I'll just use for this process, and that way it's, my photos aren't in it. It's only the photos that were submitted, and I can just manage them that way. So I've got two collections. I've got the collection for done editing, and these are all the edits we've done in the past. So these, you might recognize some of these from past sessions. And then I've got the to be edited collection, which are images yet to be collected or yet to be edited. And you can see there's still quite a few, and we won't get through all of these today. We won't even get close. But we'll just keep going. We'll keep piling through them. Just keep watching. And hopefully I will eventually get to your image if I don't get to it the same week you submitted it. All right, so with this one, now Paul, Paul, is it Thero? Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Paul submitted like 5 images. So I won't get through all of his, because it's not fair to just work through one person's images all day. But I will do a few of these because there are some interesting edits I can do. So this first one just looks like maybe street photography, and I'm not sure the significance of this object, but there are some things I would do to this photo. It's a nice, beautiful day. The light looks good, but there are some things that I would do. So first and foremost, there's some, it looks like graffiti on this. And if this is important to you, then you would leave it. But I don't know that it's important, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it. And then also this is, I'm not sure if this is meant to be here or not because I don't know what the object is. So I don't know if this is wire or this cable is meant to be here. But for me, that's a distraction, so I will remove it. Also, you'll notice that behind it, these look like signs on the wall. They're shallow depth of field, so you can't read them. They're not too distracting. But if you didn't want those signs there, then we would take a look at how to remove those. So let's get to this particular edit. Now, Paul, and it's Bakili. And again, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, I apologize, but it looks like Paul Bakili submitted these photos in JPEG. And that gives me an opportunity because I would say that the vast majority of images people submitted were in RAW, and I didn't get to show you like the JPEG workflow. So let's get to the JPEG workflow, and I will show you. It's slightly different, but not hugely different. So first and foremost, if I can do things in Lightroom, I go ahead and do them in Lightroom, no matter what, because even if I'm going to go to Photoshop, I do as much to the original photo in Lightroom as I can, because Lightroom is non-destructive, whether it's working with a JPEG or RAW file, TIFF, or whatever. So I would head over to the develop module. Now again, this one looks pretty clean from a standpoint of the photography. There's not a whole lot I need to do to this, but I would go in and do some things. Now, one of the first things you know that I normally do is switch to a raw profile based on what the scene is. Since this is not a raw image, I want to point out when people say, hey, I went to the profile pop-up and I didn't see landscape or vivid or portrait. And it's because I don't see them either, because this is not a raw file. This is a JPEG. So just to point out, when you go to this profile pop-up and you're not seeing all the ones I normally pick, just like I'm not seeing them now, that's because you're not on a raw file. It's a broken pot or craft object. Okay, all right, so we'll go with that description. Now, before I even go any further there, let's go down to lens correction. And I usually just check to see if there's a lens correction that I can do. And again, this one's missing the EXIF data of what it was shot with, so it's not even detecting a lens profile to use, which is fine. I just always go check that just to see. Let's head back to basic, and again, there's not a whole lot I would change to this. The lighting looks good, shadows look good, details looks good, so I would go ahead and hit auto just to see what Lightroom would do. And sometimes Lightroom makes it look better, sometimes it doesn't. So Lightroom actually made it more contrasty, more vibrant. So like for example, I noticed it upped the vibrance to 0.7 or +7, and it dropped the saturation -1. So I'm just going to reset the saturation back down. I'm also going to reset the vibrance back down because I don't think it needed that. I can also see there's some shadow clipping. So if I hover over the histogram, that triangle in the upper left corner is white, letting me know that there are some shadows that are being completely filled in. When I hover over that white triangle, it shows me in blue on the image the areas that are being completely filled in. So if I want, like, I don't mind it on the stuff in the background that's out of focus. I don't mind it on the cable I'm going to remove, but I do mind it on the pot itself, or the pottery itself down here in the bottom right-hand corner. I don't like that that's being filled in. So I could just simply drag in this area on the histogram. This is the blacks area. You have the shadows, exposure, highlights, and whites. If I just drag it in this section, you notice when you hover over it, you get a double arrow left and right. You can drag it to the right to increase the blacks. So when I hover over the I moved it all the way over to 100, so as far as I can go. Now it's 100. When I hover, it still didn't remove it all, but it got rid of most of it. So I would say I'm in good shape because again, I don't mind the black cable that I'm going to remove anyway. It's more that I didn't want these areas on the pottery itself to be filled in. Okay, so, and you're saying, well, why can't you move it any further? Because that's as much as it can recover. 100 is 100. That's it. It can't recover anymore. Now, there's tricks to duplicate it and do it again and all that, but like I said, it's not enough for me to worry about at this point. Okay, everything else. Now, the only other thing I would look at is I would zoom in and look at the look at the focus of the image, and I would say, okay, since this is not a person, can we bump up the texture to make it even sharper? And again, we don't want to go too far. That's negative texture. That's positive texture. That's going too far because it's starting to change the colors. I would say right about there, somewhere in the middle, just to bump up the texture around the edges especially. And again, you don't want to start increasing the texture so much so it damages the sky. So let me pull back and let me look at the sky, and I can start to see artifacts in the sky. So that lets me know I can't add too much texture, at least to the overall image. I could always come in with an adjustment brush, for example, grab my adjustment brush, switch to texture, increase the texture, and then I can paint on the object itself, and that way I'm not affecting the sky. I'm only affecting the pottery or whatever this is, and I'm not affecting anything that I don't want to be overdone. So now this way, because I'm painting directly on the object itself, I can bump up the texture and not affect the sky at all because I didn't paint the sky. So that's another way to get around a global adjustment that's maybe doing adverse things to parts of the image, but you still like what it's doing to other parts of the image. So you can use your adjustment brush to just paint it over the areas you want. Okay, so now I put the adjustment brush away. Just click on it again to put it back. I can zoom back in on my image. My sky is the same because I didn't do anything to the sky, and away we go. All right, now the only other thing I might just look at, and again, everything looks good. I don't need to do this, but I just might look to see what it would do, is I might look into what dehaze would do to this image, just adding just a slight amount of dehaze. And again, I'm going to check the quality of my sky to make sure I'm not adding artifacts to the sky with that adjustment, and it looks pretty good. Okay, so now, like I said, if it wasn't for the things I needed to remove, I'd be done. Like, this image is done. It was already shot and looks good. The light looks good. Quality of the images looks good. It's in focus, it's nice and sharp. There's not a whole lot I need to do to it other than now these are nitpicky things about, that I personally want to do to it. So in this case, this looks like Locker or Luker number 8, whatever that is. That writing on the sides drives me crazy. So that's where it's time to go into Photoshop to remove that. You might say, well, Terry, couldn't you remove that with the healing brush or spot removal tool in Lightroom? Yes, but it would be a less than ideal tool to use, because if I tried to remove it with this tool, and let me make my brush bigger, and let's say I try to remove the letter L, and I let go, it's going to try and find another spot to pull from to make that L disappear, and it just pulled from other letters. So then I got to pick it up and move it around and try and find a good spot, and it's just the amount of time it's taking me just to do that one letter, and it still doesn't look right. I could have been done almost in Photoshop. So that's what I mean by the right tool for the right job. Yeah, you can get away with it, but it's painful to do. Small things to remove, no problem. But lots of little details to remove, it's more painful to do it this way than to try and do it in Photoshop, where you have better tools and better techniques to do it. So I'm just going to undo that and put it back. Let's put that tool away. That tool's great when it's the right situation. This is not the right situation. All right, so now I've got it all edited in Lightroom. And again, if that's all I needed to do, I could move on and keep going, but I'm going to take it one step further. So I'm going to right click on it, edit in Photoshop, or simply PC Control E, Mac Command E. That will give me this menu. And we don't usually see this dialog box when I'm doing these classes, because I'm usually if it's my images, they're all raw. If they're user submission images, they're usually mostly raw. But in this case, it's a JPEG. So I have a choice, and this only pops up if it's not a raw file. So my choices are edit the original, which means if I do this, I'm telling Photoshop to edit that original JPEG. I almost never do that. Like, why would I want to edit a JPEG if it can make a copy for me? Like, just make a copy. That way the original is going to be untouched. It's not going to be harmed. It's still non-destructive edits on it, and I can always come back and continue to do more with it. So I would always choose edit with a copy, or edit a copy, or edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments, either one, as opposed to editing the original. Now, the only time I would edit the original is if I've already taken it over to Photoshop, I edited it, I came back, it's a PSD or a TIFF, and I forgot to do something. Then yeah, I would edit that original PSD or TIFF because it's already got layers and it's already got all the stuff I want, and that's the only time I would choose edit original. But for the original JPEG, always edit a copy. And editing a copy with the Lightroom adjustments is just as the name implies. It edits a copy with the adjustments I've already made in Lightroom. All right, so now we're in Photoshop. And again, I know a lot of people, like, the first thing you want to do is duplicate the layer. That way you have your fallback to go to in case you mess up. My fallback is already in Lightroom. I already have a copy in Lightroom. I don't need to duplicate the layer here, but just for the people that drives them crazy when they don't see you do that. There you go. I duplicated the layer just for you. All right, so let's go ahead and zoom in. And now that I'm here, I can see, first of all, I don't care what it says, but I can see that I can get rid of it. So I can get rid of it a multitude of different ways. I can use my my healing brush, which should be right there, but I don't see it. Here, let's hit the letter J. There it is. All right, so I got my healing brush. Oh, I know what's going on. Hang on a minute. Hold on a minute. My tools got rearranged again. Hang on. Let me just go to Edit, Toolbar, Load, Preset, and Terry's Retouching Toolbar. There we go. Done. So now I've got a custom toolbar with the tools in the order that I'm used to them in. So that way, the tools that I want are up top. The tools I don't need are not here. The tools that are buried under other tools that I use are separated. So creating your own custom toolbar is definitely a cool thing to do for this type of work. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start taking that brush and just brushing that letter. And it just does it so much easier than trying to do it with the spot removal tool in Lightroom. Okay, so same thing here. Let's get rid of that. If it misses pieces, no big deal. And for those of you who are asking or about to ask, yes, I am doing this on screen with my Wacom Cintiq 16-inch. All right. And, you know, I might take that opportunity to also get rid of other little distractions that weren't the markings or the lettering. Now, and again, if this lettering is important to you, then you would not remove it. I'm only removing it because I don't think it's important, but if it is, you by all means keep it. Okay, so again, little cracks or marks. Let's get rid of those. And now we got this, looks like a cable or a piece of rope or something coming down here. I don't know what this is, but I'm going to do my best to remove it. Now, that removal spot did not work well. I'm going to go back and fix that, but let me go ahead and get it out of some of these other places. And I'm doing it in sections on purpose because just trying to do this all at once is probably going to be it's probably not going to yield great results. So, you know, sometimes it's better to do it in pieces than to try and do it all at once. And this is one of those cases. All right, that's got rid of most of it. Now let's fix that one edge where it did not do such a great job. So for that, I'm going to go to my patch tool, and I'm going to take that piece that did not work so well and simply use the piece that does look well, look good, and use that to patch it with. Oh, I let go too soon. Use the patch tool. There we go. And then same thing here. Now I'm just, again, nitpicking. No one would ever see that little bitty piece way under there, but that's kind of what I would do. Now for this area down here at the bottom, again, it's a sign. It's something way against the wall behind this. You know, it's more of a, it's bugging me because I can see it. It's not that it's really that bad in the photo. It's in the background. It's out of focus. You can't read it. It's not really distracting you that much, but it's distracting me enough. So what I'm going to do is, now I can do this a couple of different ways. This is a little, I could patch it all out, but in this case, it's probably easier to clone it out because you have enough of this, whatever this is above it, to use as your clone to get rid of it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, let's see if I can use my object selection tool to select it as an object first. All right, I got it in a lasso. Let's make it a rectangle. I'm just going to use my rectangular object selection tool to see if that will select it for me. And it did. Okay, so now that I've got that selected, I'm just going to go in, because now I'm telling Photoshop to confine my whatever I'm about to do to that area. So it will not do anything outside of this area. It will only work in that area. So now I can go to my clone stamp tool. I'll hit the letter S, and I've got it set to normal, 100% opacity, clone stamp. I'm going to make my brush bigger because it can be. I'm going to start, oh, whoa. I'm going to start at the top here. Oh, still want to see the bottom though. There we go. Start at the top there, and then I'll just start holding on my Option or Alt key, click, and then I can start cloning that in. And see, like it got that part up there because the brush went up there. And I don't have to worry about painting outside the lines because I've made a selection, so it can't paint outside the lines. There we go. All right, so now if I deselect that, I'm probably going to see an edge, which I do, and that's okay. I'll fix that edge in a minute. But now let's get the other side. So same thing. We use the object selection tool. Make a selection around this object. And Photoshop does a really good job of saying, oh, okay, you want that? No problem, I got it. Actually, before we do that, hang on. Let's help ourselves out a little bit. Let's fix this edge first, because then that'll give us more area to clone from. So I'm just going to use the patch tool and just patch that area, that little mark, to be better. All right, so now that I got that, now I got this whole space to work with when I want to patch or sorry, clone from. That's the word I'm looking for. And I'm just kind of making it not look so repeating. All right. Now, and by the way, if you're looking at this controller down here, this is the Loop Deck. This is their older model. I'm more of a fan of their older model than their newer model. And by the way, it is cleaning, so ignore all the dust. But this one specifically for Lightroom. So all of these controls are contrast, clarity, exposure, shadows, blacks, whites, highlights, vibrance, saturation, white balance. You got knobs for everything. You have your star ratings as buttons. You have your just everything that you would ever configure in a develop module on a keyboard, so you can quickly get to it. So if I'm doing a lot of editing to a group of images, this keyboard comes in really handy. All right, so now that I got that, let's go ahead and go to my clone stamp again. Hold down my Option or Alt, start over there, because now I've got plenty of room to finish filling this in. And again, just keep in mind, this is the wall in the background. No one's really going to pay a lot of attention to that once you're done. So we'll make it look as good as we can, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because it is literally just a background element. Now, if these three stripes were important to you, you could either A, keep pulling them down, or B, go ahead and clone over them, remove them, because what purpose do they serve? No one's going to ever say, hey, what happened to those three stripes in the background? And that's the thing that we get caught up on as photographers, and especially in retouchers, trying to make the scene look like it looked when you were there. But again, just having that sign or those signs gone makes me really focus on the pottery. See how much of a distraction that used to be here now that I got my before and after layer? That's where we came from. And again, it was okay. There was nothing wrong with it photographically. But now you got something that actually makes people look at the main subject. And that's why I'm really strong on removing distractions, just taking things out of it that take people's mind or attention away from whatever it is you're trying to look at. Okay, so with that said, we can save this one now. We can close it once it finishes saving. And close it and head back to Lightroom, and there it is. It puts it right next to the original. So that's why I said I don't ever worry about having to duplicate the layer, because I already have the original anyway if I ever mess up and need to get back to it. So here's our original, the original JPEG that we edited in Lightroom, and here's the finished one that makes it look like, oh man, that's cool. I really want to focus on that pottery. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, I'm going to assume this is Paul kind of showing off with his lady friend here. I'm not going to say girlfriend. I don't know if that's another relationship. I don't know Paul. But anyway, let's go ahead and make this better. So again, this is mainly about the main subjects look great. It's mainly about distractions we don't need. So, and also, I don't know if the street's tilted or the building is tilted. Like the image looks tilted overall. And the color is off a little bit as well. So let's go ahead and go to develop. And again, I'm going to assume that if I go to lens correction, it's probably not going to correct this one either because it's from the same person. Nope, it did. Oh, it did pick up the profile that time. So see what it did here? So this one actually has the EXIF data in it. That's why we don't assume. We go try it anyway. Now look at up here at this top awning above the door here. Watch what happens when I turn that profile correction on. See how it just jumps out at you a little bit? And what that's doing is it's taking the overall image and taking the curvature out of it. So it's flattening the image and presenting it to you. So that way, it detected what camera and lens he shot this with. So he shot it with a Canon something and a Canon lens something. But whatever it was, it detected that combination and says, oh, I know how to fix that. And it's taking whatever bowing, vignetting, or anything away from the edges, just like that. Okay, so now that we got that done, same thing. Now this case, I'm seeing a warning on the highlights, but again, I haven't hit auto yet. So let's go back to basic. And we don't have raw profiles because it's a JPEG, so I skipped that part. And we just go ahead and click auto tone because I just always do an auto tone just to see what I'm going to get. Now that filled in some of the shadows, but I don't see any blue, so it's like filled in areas I can't even see with my naked eye. And I don't see any real highlight damage here, so I'm not going to worry about these triangles turning white. I could pull them in a little bit to where they go away just in case, but that's what happens when you fixed it. The triangles go dark. That means that you've fixed whatever the problems was just by dragging over the whites and dragging over the blacks, and the triangles go away. That lets you know you got it right. Okay, now the problem I have with this particular photo is great couple, nice energy. She's looking at him. He's smiling like, yeah, go me. This all looks great, but you got all this other stuff that has nothing to do with this great moment. So great mood being spoiled by the surrounding. Like, do we really need to see that awning? Do we need to see as much of that door? Do we need to see the sign that's over here on the wall? Do we need to see all that stuff? And the answer is no. So first thing I'm going to do is what's driving me crazy the most is the image just feels tilted. The street just may be that way, but it feels tilted. So I'm going to go into my crop tool, and I can see. I'm just trying to decide what I want to align this on. Let's use the car. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my angle tool, and I'm just going to drag along the edge of the car and say that this should be straight. And then when I let go, it does straighten it out. All right, so now that we're here, now that we're in the crop tool, we might as well finish cropping. because that straightened the image more. That definitely got rid of that tilt that was driving me crazy. But it also gives us the opportunity to crop this image down to reveal more of our subjects. So in this case, I think they're more important than this background. Maybe the background is sentimental to them. Maybe that's his car, her car. I don't know. But I'm the one editing this and I don't know the backstory, so I'm just trying to give you a better photo. If that stuff's important, don't crop it. It's not important to me. So since I don't know the backstory, it's going to go. So I'm going to set my crop preset to a 4x5, 8x10. Why? Because in the world of 2020, 2021, we're a lot of times posting things to Instagram. And when you post a portrait, not a landscape, a portrait to Instagram, it automatically crops it to 4x5, 8x10. Even if you click the little double arrows to make it bigger, like it crops to a square if you don't do anything. But if you click the little double arrows to say, show me all my image, it still won't show you all your image if it's bigger or the aspect ratio is taller than a 4x5, 8x10. So I've just gotten in the habit of shooting back more to get more background so that I'm not cropping my subject. And once I've got that extra background, like I do in this case, then I go ahead and set it to 4x5, 8x10, and that way I can move my subject into that 4x5, 8x10 and not lose their feet or their top of their hair or anything like that. That way I can keep it the way I want. Christine says, thank you, Terry. I'm forever trying to decide what crop dimension to use. Yeah, portrait, 4x5, 8x10, you can't go wrong because that works everywhere. Like there's no scenario where that doesn't work. And if it does crop part of your subject, then that's definitely a chance to go to Photoshop and maybe use content aware fill in the crop to kind of keep it cropped but not crop away important parts. Okay, so now that I've got that, now I got the right aspect ratio. That doesn't mean I can't come in more, but there's no need to because I can't come in enough to get rid of that sign and keep my subject. So I'm just going to keep the sign out. Again, that's a chance to go into Photoshop because I don't care about any of this stuff in the background, so why have it there? All right, so let's go ahead and click OK on that crop. So now we got our subject. They look closer. They look, it's more interesting because you're looking at them. Now, wait, let's go back to the crop one more time. The only other thing that you might do is you might use the crop to recompose at this point. So again, I'm not going to get rid of the sign from the cropping, but I could recompose the shot. Really, I can't. I was going to say I could recompose the shot a little more so they're not just dead center. So I could bring it in just a little more, so they're not centered in the frame. All right, so now we got the crop the way I want. We'll go ahead and zoom in, and I'm just checking things like focus and sharpness. And okay, so now, remember I said I don't use texture on people because, we don't want her skin to look all texturized. His skin we don't care about because he's a guy. But we don't want to adversely affect our subjects that have soft skin, like babies, female, whatever. We don't want that to be affected by texture. But that doesn't mean we can't sharpen the image. So if I go to detail, there is no automatic sharpening done to JPEGs. If you were in a RAW file, you would notice the sharpening number had moved over to 40. And that's because the minute you bring a RAW file in, it sharpens it automatically. So since JPEGs don't get sharpened automatically, I'm going to use a preset to sharpen for people. And you might say, well, or faces. You might say, well, Terry, I don't have that in Lightroom Classic. How did you get that Sharpen Faces preset? Now I'm going to give you the secret of the day. So Sharpen Faces and Sharpen Scenic were the original sharpening presets for people and everything that's not people. And along the way, the Lightroom team took them away, like they hid them from you because they would prefer you use the new sharpening, none, light, medium, and heavy. And these are fine. There's nothing wrong with these, except for they don't do what Sharpen Faces does. And I'll explain what it does in a minute, and I'll explain why you want this. So I said, oh, no, you don't. I don't care about sharpen scenic, but I certainly need my sharpen faces. I want that preset back. So how do you get that preset? Well, if I zoom out and you go to, I don't have to go, I don't scroll, but yeah, I do. You go to your preset menu, the little plus sign on the right-hand side here. If you click that, that will give you a Manage Presets option. So when I click Manage Presets, that will give me the ability to turn on Classic General. So all these classic ones got turned off. And I don't care about the other ones because we do have newer ones that are better. I don't care about classic black and white, classic black and white presets, and classic black and white tone, and color presets and effects. I don't care about those, but I did care about Classic General. So I've turned back on the Classic General presets, and here's why. If I were to use their sharpening, sharpen medium, sharpen heavy. Okay, I click sharpen heavy, and what that does is that sharpens everything. His face, his hair, that door, that sign, the car, her face, her teeth, her everything, her jewelry, everything. And that may not be what I want. So let me undo that. Let me turn off sharpen heavy. And now watch the difference when I turn on sharpen faces. When I turn on sharpen faces, the other thing that got enabled was masking. And what masking is designed to do is, oh, look, it's got a nice little logo there we sharpened. But anyway, what masking is designed to do is it's designed to look for faces. So if I hold down my Option or Alt key and click on that, it identified faces. So you can see if I pull it back, it's not sharpening, it's sharpening everything. If I pull it forward, whatever is white gets sharpened. Whatever is black does not get sharpened. So this is why this is great for people, because I don't want her skin sharpened, but I don't mind her hair being sharpened. I don't mind her jewelry being sharpened. I don't mind the other stuff in the scene being sharpened. So this is why I like this preset, because it enables masking by default. And I don't even have to think about it unless I want to adjust the mask. All right, so that's why I love that particular feature. Now, notice it didn't sharpen the background because the background's out of focus. So it knows it's smart enough not to try and sharpen things that weren't the main subject. All right, so anyway, now I got my sharpening done. Now it's time to, again, go get rid of some distraction. I may want to, hang on one second here. I may want to go back and look at color. Skin tones look good. Like, they're the right skin tones, right color. That burgundy it just looks overly warm. And it could just be me. So I might adjust the temperature just ever so slightly down a little, because the whole scene looked a little too yellow, too beige. All right, so I just moved the temperature like -4. So just a very slight amount to the left. Okay, so now that we got all of our Lightroom adjustments done, so same thing, Command E or right click, edit in Photoshop. Those are cheeky smiles, they are. So again, edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. So we head over to Photoshop with this copy. And again, I don't need to duplicate the background, but just for the before and after sake, go ahead and do it. All right, so now, again, I head directly for the things that bother me. All right, this has got to go. We don't care what gas station or whatever this says. We don't care anything about this sign whatsoever. Now, I could try and patch it down if I have enough space, which I barely do. Let's try a patch. Actually, that did really good. Okay, let's patch the rest. And now this one's going to be a little harder because it's A, behind him, and B, it's on these slats of this garage door. So let's see, do I have enough door left over here? I think I do. So what I might do is simply grab my rectangular marquee tool and grab a section of this, like so. And then I'll hit Command J on Mac, PC Control J. That will put that little slat on its own layer. And then I'll go ahead and grab my Move tool and move it over. and kind of make the lines match up. Something like that. Maybe a little higher. All right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to put it behind his shoulder, so I can simply add a mask to it. So add a layer mask, grab my paintbrush, and I'm going to paint with bigger strokes. A nice black mask on that part of the image, like so. Now, the edges on this side kind of show out, so I might use a soft brush, soften that brush to kind of just hide that edge a little. And it's just off because the lines don't line up completely, but just kind of blend those edges in a little bit. There we go. And just blend these edges in some more. Nope, not that much. Just a little bit more. All right, here's what I'm going to do because it's still bugging me. So I'm going to just let me move it over. All right, we got that one. Let me duplicate it one more time. And let me use my move tool and move it directly over again. That way I don't have it not lining up. It was bugging me because you could see that it wasn't lining up. All right, so now we go back to so I just made 2 copies of it. Now we need to fix this one again. So we go back to that mask and just mask that one over. All righty. All right, so yeah. And I might even, okay, so here's what I might also do. I might go ahead and merge these layers together and just like clone out some of that rust that's bugging me now. So again, these are just little nitpicky details. Merge those layers. So now it's all one. Zoom back in. Oh, did I hit that wrong key? I did. Zoom back in. And I might just, for the sake of argument, go to my clone stamp tool, option click, and just get rid of that rust by using the same grate. Oh, I brought back in some more of it. Hang on, let me do that again. Whoa, 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 what did I do? Oh no. There we go. I was in some tool I installed to make my brush my cursor zoom in. So it was like kind of got caught in that with the keyboard shortcut. All right, anyway, let's go back into, actually come over here a little bit more. There we go. Make my brush a little smaller. There we go. Just that little bit of awkwardness. There we go. Now it's not bothering me. Now the one above it's bugging me, but not enough to do anything about it. All right. Anyway, so you could go all the way up. You could fix that one too and just make this whole thing clean. But, you know, and again, it's time. If that's bothering you, by all means, go to it. All right. So I don't want to spend any more time on this, but I could, like, now this is bothering me, this little spot here. So I might just take a patch tool and just use another section of it to fill that in. There we go. So just, you know, I could spend another hour just retouching little things around the photo, but you get the idea. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, close it. Please add some left should back. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Jane. Fix the junk on his shirt too. If he's got junk on his shirt, definitely fix it. But I'm out of time on this image. All right, let's move on. So again, here's our before, and here's our after. I cut off a little too much of a shirt, but you get it. It works. I would go back and make sure that I got all of the shirt in there, but even without it, just makes them look, less buff. All right. But anyway, there it is. Let's go in and let's keep going. Now, again, I could keep editing Paul's images. There's just this quick one I'm going to do just really fast. I'm not going to go to Photoshop. But one of the things that, because I just can't go past this shot, one of the things that will always bug a landscape shooter is a crooked horizon line. And this is extremely crooked. So before I could do anything else to this photo, I'd have to fix that horizon line. And if you do it on purpose, if you break the rule on purpose, then great. But that was just, again, going to drive me nuts. All right, we might hit auto on this. We might bring our shadows up quite a bit. There we go, something more like that. And then we could go in Photoshop, maybe replace the sky. We can go add some more color to the water. We could do all kinds of things there. But those would be the kinds of things I would do on this scene. All right, moving on. Let's go into a portrait retouch from a different person. Let's go into this one now. When I look at this shot, there's a few things I would, of course, crop into the background because it looks like seamless paper that's not wide enough for the frame, so we would crop it into that. But if I click on the shot, one of the first things I notice is that it's just not super sharp. So this could use some sharpening on some of the details. Not the skin, but some sharpening on her eyes for sure. So I could quickly going to develop, because we're almost out of time, believe it or not. This is what I mean by I never get through all the images because I spend too much time on on individual ones. But hopefully you're learning during the process, even if I don't get to your image. All right, so we're going to hit auto. Let's go into our lens correction. It did not detect it, so that's fine. It didn't detect it because this is already a PSD with the metadata missing, or exit data missing. It looks like her skin's a little too yellow, so let's fix the white balance. And let's still bring down her skin just is slightly yellower than it should be. Okay, all right, so let's crop this. Hit the letter R. Again, a wide crop on this really doesn't make sense because it's a portrait image and you don't have enough background for a wide anyway. So I'd probably go into something like that. Maybe even pull down a little more. Alrighty. And now that I got my crop out of the way, the only thing I might do is increase the contrast because we're starting to lose some of the blackness of the background. So maybe something to that effect. Okay, so now let's head over to Photoshop. Command E, edit a copy. Even though it's a PSD, I'm just going to edit a copy, so we always have the original. And now I'm going to just take care of some of the things again that were like extremely noticeable right off the bat. Like her eyes look okay now. They didn't look that great in Lightroom, but let's go ahead and just fix them up a little bit more. We're going to use my sharpen tool. You actually have a tool for sharpening on a brush. So I'm just basically sharpening her. Oh, wait. Undo. Duplicate the layer. All right, so now, there we go. Sharpening her eye. Maybe even the mouth area here. If she had any jewelry, we'd sharpen that too. And I just see a couple of little blemishes here and there. So let's just quickly use the spot healing brush on anything that's not permanent, like any acne that's temporary, anything that wouldn't be there the next week. Those are the kinds of things I don't mind removing because why should you be defined by a bad acne day if that's not the way you normally look? Still a little yellowish there, so not sure what lighting was used on this. But anyway, if it's a beauty mark, a birthmark, something like that, then by all means, work with the person, work with the subject to see if that's something they want to keep or not. All right, I see a little hairline there. Let's get rid of some of that. Cool. And under the chin. And I'm not pretending like I'm going to get it all right now because I only got like 4 minutes left. So you would make sure you get it all. Now, a couple things that are like that none of us really like, even though we probably have, like this double line under her arm. It's just, why emphasize that if we don't have to. So I would probably remove that one little fold there. And I'd probably patch it to do a better job, but just things to look for. Also, again, things we don't notice in real life, like this protrusion from the back of her spine, bone, neck, bone, whatever this is, like her shoulder, is just sticking out more in this side shot than we probably are comfortable with. So that's a perfect opportunity to head over to Liquify. And face aware Liquify is already there. Her face is fine. We don't need to do anything to her face. But I'm going to grab my my warp tool. I'll just make the brush no bigger than the area that I want to warp. I'm just going to push that in just a little bit, just a little, not to overemphasize it. Also, the body parts that are closest to the camera are going to naturally be bigger. They're going to look bigger than they're supposed to. It's like, so this arm looks extremely big because it's right in front of the lens. So I might also just take the opportunity to just bring that arm size. That was probably too much. A little back down to what it probably looks like in real life, because in real life it wouldn't be bigger than the other arm. So let's go ahead and just bring it down to a more normal size for her arm. All right. Okay. So now that we got those out of the way, we can click OK. And again, in my 2 minutes left, what else would I do? Oh, I go ahead and get rid of that mark on her hand too. Got some little mark there. And I don't know. We sharpened it. Oh, we could do my other technique in 2 minutes here. We can use my dodge and burn action. Let's put these in hang on. Let's put these in button mode. Button mode. All right, dodge and burn. So I have an action set up that simply duplicates the layer, sets the blend mode to luminosity, and puts it on the burn tool by default. And you can, of course, toggle back and forth between burn and dodge. Took me a second. So I'm just going to burn in some of the edges here, just darken them, just increase the shadows that are already here, just around the edge. Just basically, this is like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like kind of doing a sculpting effect. And the yellowness in her, like this area, and this is from the light, this isn't her skin. That's kind of bugging me still. Also with the Liquify, I might have pushed that in a little bit because that just sticks out more than it probably does in real life. And all right, so let's keep sculpting a little bit. Oh, you know what? Let's use my brush. That would be better. So just around the edges, and of course I would use dodge to do the opposite. So if I needed to, like this is one of the techniques, if someone's eye sockets are dark because of the lighting, like I'd use my dodge tool to brighten up the eyes or areas that need to be brighter. Any highlights I want to put in, even in hair. So if I wanted the hair to be brighter in certain areas, you can certainly do it with this technique. And so it looks like I didn't really do anything, but there's the before, there's the after, just with dodge and burn. That's all dodge and burn right there. So it can make a big difference. A big difference, even though it doesn't look like it's making a big difference when you're doing it. But yeah, it makes a big difference. Okay, I'm out of time. Let's save this one. Let's close it. Saving all the layers, closing it, heading back to Lightroom. It's there in Lightroom. There's our, oh, hang on. There's our before, there's our after, before, after. And again, just looking at that arm, you can see how much bigger that arm probably looks than it does in real life. And I may have taken too much off, so just, less is more. But there it is. And so lastly but not least, I would still head over to the develop module for this one because it just feels a little too yellowish for me. And I just try and tone down. I might even use an adjustment brush on that part of the skin where it's super yellow. But you get the idea. So with that said, we are out of time. And I want to thank everyone for watching and stay tuned for the next segment, which I'm not remembering what it is. I think it's Paul Trandy's going to be up doing the graphic design masterclass after me. All right, cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody. Next week, I'll be doing graduation portrait shoot, kind of not the shoot, but going through all the images and picking and doing all that stuff. All right, cheers, everybody. Stay tuned.